So thank you, Ravi, for accept this invitation. I know from Doris that you give this great workshop on the topic of searching for a job and preparing for an interview. And I know this is a very important topic, especially for international students who study who study in US and especially during this COVID year. So thank you for accepting the invitation. And I know you've prepared an exciting slide of self-introduction. I had a peek. So I will hand over to you and let you introduce yourself and start the workshop.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, May. And it's really an honor and a pleasure to be speaking to all of you. Those of you that are on the verge of graduating, it's a bit of a scary time right now. This isn't how things should go, right? We shouldn't be in the middle of a pandemic, and you shouldn't be dealing with all this. But hopefully, we're going to come out of this very soon, and things will sort of be back to normal. I was just commenting that I don't think they're going to be, entirely back to normal. But all of the same rules still apply as it relates to succeeding in the workplace. It's just we're going to be doing it a little differently, and probably through a medium that you guys are really comfortable with, through this virtual medium. And eventually, obviously, when we get back into offices and so forth, you'll be meeting, with each other in person. But I think this is a very comfortable environment for you because you've grown up in this environment. This is kind of how you operate. For me, it's I'm still learning. I've been in the industry for over 25 years. I've been handling computer systems and IT for that long. I started my career as a consultant, and then I moved into management in the first 5-7 years of my career. And then eventually I rose to positions of greater responsibility. And now I'm heading up an organization of approximately 100 people across the entire North and South American continent. So I'm going to jump into this presentation. I hope you find it useful. If there are things that resonate with you, I want you to kind of let me know. If you have any questions at all as we're going through this, please don't hesitate to unpause your mics, interrupt me, ask the questions, right? We're a small group, so let's keep it really interactive as we're going through this. So let me flip these slides here, and I hope not to bore you with all these slides, but so I kind of did a little bit of a quick introduction here, but I've been in the IT space for 25 years. I've worked with several companies throughout my career, CompuCom being an IT outsourcing company. I'm certified with Microsoft. I've got many different certifications with Microsoft. One of the first companies that I consulted at was Prudential. They had 50,000 employees, and I worked on replacing their network and all of their IT systems on the back end. And the funny thing is, they were so big, David, you'll appreciate this. They were so big that when we finally got to the end of the migration, they were ready to start all over again because another version of the network and operating system had come out, and they were ready to do it all over again. And it was a 1.5-year project. And I said, enough's enough. I'm out of there. I can't do this again. I worked with HBO. Many of you know HBO. I built out, their email systems within their data centers. I worked with Altria. Altria was the former parent company of Kraft Foods, Miller Brewing, and Kraft Foods, Miller Brewing, and Nabisco. So we had beer, cheese, and cigarettes, all in one company. Imagine that. You didn't have to go anywhere else. So I've had varying experiences throughout my career. Sampo International is a insurance company, financial services. I graduated from St. John's University in Queens, New York. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Queens. I grew up in Queens. I was in Rego Park, and then Forest Hills, and then Flushing. I spent a lot of time hanging out in Flushing on Main Street. I have a lot of family that lives in Hong Kong. My mother was born in Hong Kong, as a matter of fact. A lot of my family on my mother's side speak fluent Cantonese. So I love going with them out to the restaurants, because whenever they open their mouth, the staff over there just can't believe it. Uh, and I know the numbers in Cantonese. Do you guys, any of you speak Cantonese?
I'm actually
That's
learning.
You're learning. That's the only thing I know. The numbers in Cantonese. Yat I sam se lok chat pat kausa. So
Yes.
that says ni hao ma, of course. Um, and I love to golf. I don't know if you guys play golf at all. I'll give out. I'm happy to give out golf tips as well when we're done. I've been a lifelong golfer. I've been working on my swing forever, David. You're a golfer. Uh, yeah, and it's just this ongoing thing that I'm totally obsessed with it. And given that we're in this COVID period, every little sort of twist and turn, and my takeaway and my follow through, and I'm just getting so anal about everything. Uh, and I love to fish. I don't know if you guys ever went fishing, but I love to do freshwater, saltwater fishing. This is my family. I'm married. I've got two kids. My son Dylan, he's 16 years old. My daughter Karina, who is 13 years old. This picture was taken in Phuket when we went there a few years ago. And then this picture here with the security guard. This was also on the same trip, and this is when I accepted my position at Securitas, which is where I am today. Securitas is a global leader in security services, protective services. So they provide physical guarding services. So they provide guards at sites, at commercial properties or data centers, guarding government facilities, and so forth. We guard nuclear plants. We're guarding all of the 5G towers in Canada that people are trying to burn down because they think it's causing all kinds of brain issues. So we do a lot of that work, electronic security. For example, Ring. Are you guys familiar with the company Ring? So when your alarm goes off, when that Ring alarm goes off, if you're connected to their security services, it calls back to our SOC, our Security Operations Center. Then we then start to initiate calls and dispatch if we need to. So we do a lot of that work. The company has 370,000 employees throughout the world. Okay, the majority of those people are physical guards at site. So this is me in August of 2018. When I accepted my position, I took a picture with the guard that was at Securitas, happened to be guarding the resort that we were staying at. So I took a picture with that guard and I sent it back to HR and to the hiring manager with my acceptance, and he got a real kick out of it that I was with a Securitas guard. So that was great. So I've seen a lot, I've done a lot, but I'm always still learning. So I still consider myself very ignorant. So I'm always moving through life with a very open mind. Oh, one more thing. I started out my career wanting to be a pilot. I actually wanted to be a commercial airline pilot. Got my private pilot's license. I flew Cessna 172s, and then I realized, you know what, it's going to take some time for me to actually make it to the big leagues where I'm flying big 747s, commercial flights and so forth. And that was the dream. But it was going to take too long. And at that time, I don't know, maybe David, you'll appreciate this. Pan Am had gone out of business, and there were a ton of pilots on the sidelines. They had thousands of pilots waiting for jobs. And with all that slack in the system, by the time, I was, it was my turn, it was going to take forever. So I said, you know what, I'm scrapping all this, and I love computers, and I'm going to get into computers. And that was when my career diverted. Okay, so we wanted to talk about success in the workplace, but before you have success in the workplace, you have to first get a job, right? Before you have any sort of success, right? So you'll notice on this list that your resume is at the bottom. Okay, and a lot of people give importance to the resume, and I've got to make sure I get my resume perfect, and it's got to be this and that, and that's what I have to submit. And I'm here to tell you, resume is not that important. It's sort of your calling card, if you will. It's got all of the details and your experience and all that, but it's not going to get you a job, because as a hiring manager, and I've hired hundreds of people in my career, I get dozens of resumes a day. As a matter of fact, I'm always hiring. Every week I'm hiring. And I get dozens of resumes, but the resumes really don't impress me. And I'll talk about, what it is that you need to do on your resume to get recognized. But I wanted to start off by saying that it's not important. It's really not important. The most important thing that you can do is build out your network, right? So being in college or graduating or having just graduated, what you should do, what you should continue to do or start to do is to start to network out. And what that means is making connections with your peers, with managers that you may be working with your colleagues, with your professors in school, at church, with folks that you may be affiliated with. You want to let them know what's happening in your life at a high level. Obviously, you don't want to get into any sort of detail, but you want to let them know what's going on. Stay in touch. If somebody happens to be in an industry that you're interested in, you want to stay in touch with them. So you want to build out that network, and one of the easiest ways to do that is by using a tool like LinkedIn. Right? You create a profile, and if you guys haven't done that yet, I would recommend that when we're done here tonight, that you create your LinkedIn profile. And LinkedIn has some amazing algorithms, and it'll start to go out and find people, that may be in your network or people that you recognize, sort of like a Facebook. But you should start to build that network out. Like I said, connect with peers and friends that have similar jobs to what you want to get into. It could even be a tangential job. It might not be directly related, but it might be somebody in accounting or in finance or in legal that may be able to get you closer to where you need to be. And I'll talk about that. Social media. You want to, when you're ready to get on a job search, a lot of hiring managers are searching social, right? When they get down to their short list and they've got 3 candidates, they'll go out and start searching your name to see, what's going on in your Facebook, or, what are some of the other things that are going on out there. And if they see that, you've got all these, crazy drinking pictures, or, all kinds of, nutty things out there, guess what? They're not going to want to bring you into their organization. So you want to make sure that you clean any of that crazy stuff up, right? And it doesn't look like you guys have any crazy pictures out there, but if you do, you want to get rid of those. Marketing document. Okay, this is important. So, and I'll share a template. And unfortunately, Doris and David, I meant to send you some templates along with the slides that you can share with everybody. But after we're done here, I'll definitely get those to you. But really, what a marketing template is, it's sort of like your resume, but it's not really your resume. It talks about things that you're interested in, your skills and experience, the types of jobs that you're looking for. It's a little more personal than a resume, and it doesn't communicate to the other person that you might be sharing this with that you're looking for a job. And I'll talk about what that means in the next point. So you've established network, you've got your LinkedIn set up, and you've started to connect with people. And really, what you want to do at the start of your job search is to have sort of these meetings. You want to meet with the people within your network. 15 minutes, 30-minute meetings And really what you want to talk about is, what is it that's going on within their industry? So if you're talking about somebody in legal, what's happening in the legal world? What are some of the things that you're struggling with? Um, what does the legal landscape look like? What is the hiring situation? And you might not be a legal person at all. You might be a technology person. But you want to understand kind of what's happening in their industry, and they will then share with you kind of what's going on, within their space. And then you can start to ask about things that relate to your industry. Well, how is it? How do you do your case management? How do you perform legal discoveries? What are some of the challenges that you have? What do you think of email? What about chats that go on? How are those governed? In your organization. So there's a lot of things that you can start to share with that individual through your questions that will then sort of trigger in that person's mind that, hey, you know what, this person is asking me all the right questions. And then you want to ask them about their pain points. Hey, what is it that keeps you up at night in your job? What are the things that you're really concerned about? What if a certain situation happened? How would that impact what it is that you do and organization? And then see where you can sort of provide them with some help, right? What are things that you might have learned in school, or what is research perhaps that you can do for them because they might be struggling with a particular topic? What are some things that you can do for them to help them along with some of the things that they may be struggling with? That going back to that legal person, he may say something like, I wish I had a tool where I can easily scan for a particular keyword, and be able to pull up all the emails I need whenever I'm working with a case. I wish I had something like that. Now we know there's tons of tools out there that do searches, right? But what is it that applies to a specific legal person? And you can maybe do some research, find 3 or 4 solutions, and recommend something to them that might really, that might work. Now, nothing may come of it. They may not go with whatever it is that you suggested. But the point is that you're networking with them, they're sharing information with you, you're sharing information with them, and they see that you're there to provide value. So it's sort of reciprocating. They met with you and you're providing something of value to them. They're going to remember that. And at the end of these networking sessions that you're going to have, you're going to ask them, are there other people that maybe I can talk to about what I'm interested in, or my actual career path? I'm going to use an example, being an IT person. I'm an IT person, I'm really interested in technology. Are there people within your organization that I can speak to about, what may be happening in the legal IT world? And you'd be surprised. They would put you in touch, with that person, help schedule that meeting for you. And that then brings you closer to where you need to be. Now, when you go on these networking, or when you set these up, you're never asking for a job, right? You're not handing out your resume and saying, hey, I really need a job, I just graduated. That's not the game here. It's all about making the connection, understanding, what it is that they need and how you can provide help. And the more people you do that to, and you guys know this already, this is sort of that reciprocation, right? The more people you help, you'll be surprised how much it comes back, to you, and in the way of, job offers and things like that. So that's really what you want to do when you start out. And that is how you're going to find your job, not through submitting your resume. That's how you're going to find your ideal job. You want to ask the right questions. You want to know if there's a cultural fit, if you fit within a certain organization or even an industry. I'll tell you, financial services just wasn't for me. Financial services, and I think I mentioned this, Doris, in our last call, is a very cutthroat industry. You are only remembered by what you did yesterday. They don't care about what you did a week ago or all the wonderful things you did last year. You're remembered by the last thing you accomplished. And if you didn't do a good job, guess what? They show you the door and you walk right out. And they cut off your access. And financial services is a very cold world. I did that for 8.5 years. Okay. And I've got scars on my back to prove it. And it helped me be a stronger person for sure, but it wasn't my personality and I didn't like it, you know, and I'm in a different place now. I can certainly utilize the skills I learned in that financial services industry. You know, it made me more of a command and control person, and I can turn that on if I need to, but that is not my personality. So, you know, some of these industries, they have their own culture. You have to be mindful of that. And then finally, the cover letter and resume. And I will send out, Doris and David, I'll send out a template of my resume so that you can share that, you know, with everyone here, and they can kind of see, you know, how to structure it and kind of what, you know, what things to look for. And I'll tell you, in a resume, you just want to make sure that things aesthetically look pleasing. That's really it. It's all about the aesthetics, that everything lines up, things match. Obviously, you want to, you know, say the right things. You never want to lie on your resume, but it's all about, you know how it looks. When I pick up a resume, if I see things out of place, guess what? It's gone. I'm not looking at it. It's in the garbage. This is why building your network, doing the marketing, having those networking meetings are really, really important. Any questions on the job search?
I want to ask about LinkedIn. So like on my LinkedIn, I have so many people I don't really know. Like, is that a good thing or bad thing?
It's neither. It's neither a good thing nor a bad thing, because you never know, Doris, who's going to reach out to you. Or when you're looking up somebody, you may be looking up a company, and all of a sudden somebody pops up in your list, in your Rolodex, right, within LinkedIn. You might be able to send them a quick message to say, hey, I'm looking for X. Do you mind if we connect for a few minutes? Or you might be able to connect somebody, you know, with that person, you know, in your contact list. Somebody may be trying to network into a particular company for a position. So it's always good to have more than less. You know, always good to have more than less. So this is why I tell my kids this also, to build your network, because now's the time to do it. Now's the time to really connect with people, and as you go through life, it's amazing how all of these people come back to you, and we know this through our own successes, right? We wouldn't be where we are without the people around us. You know, we couldn't have done it alone. You know, there was all these people that helped us along the way. Somebody put in a good word for us, somebody promoted us, right? Somebody hired us. And you know, we may be managing teams now, and those individuals are doing work that are helping, you know, our careers. So it's all about your network. It's all about harvesting your network. It's all about taking care of the network, and it's also about feeding the network, giving back to the network. And you do that through your own experiences. And I can't stress that enough. It's something that was instilled in me during my years at Altria, this whole concept of network. And I'll tell you really what happened there. So Altria got to a point where they wanted to divest the company, right? They wanted to break it up into 3 different companies. It was this huge conglomerate, 150,000 employees. They wanted to break up Kraft and spin it off into its own company. Nobody wanted to be associated with a tobacco company. And you've got Kraft, this wholly, you know, food company that's associated with a tobacco company. So, you know, Kraft, obviously Kraft's value went up once they broke away from Altria. And then you had the beer business, and beer didn't want to be associated. Nobody wanted to be associated with tobacco. But you know, the people within the organization had been there for so long. That was their first job, and they had been there for 25 and 30 years, and now they had to go out and look for another job. And they had never done this thing called networking before, and they never had to put a resume together, and they never had to do anything. So for them, they were just so anxious, you know, about the company divesting and them potentially losing their job and all of that. And they had to start over again from the beginning because they were a lifer. And you never want to be in that position. And for me, I was a young guy coming into Altria, and you know, thankfully, that had just happened a few years after I started working with Altria. And that realization set in because I had a lot of these long-term employees around me, having these issues. And I said, well, why are you guys in this situation? And it became very apparent that, we never instilled this stuff because, when we were younger and, once you graduate from school and you get a job, that's it. You're in that company forever. That's how it was. And that's how it was supposed to be. It wasn't this whole thing about being a consultant and going from job to job every 2 or 3 years. That was non-existent. And we were loyal to our companies. Now, loyalty is out the window these days. So that's why it's really, really important. So I'm gonna move on. Any Doris, that was a great question. Any other questions? Okay. So preparing for your interview. So you've done well with your networking. You've landed a position, or you're preparing for an interview now. You've gotten an interview. What you want to do to prepare is learn about the people that you're going to be interviewing with, and you can do that through HR within the company. You can try to do that through using Google searches. You don't want to do that through LinkedIn. You want to be careful because if you have a free account and you hit somebody's LinkedIn profile, they can see that you were trying to access or you're actually reading their profile. If you've got a paid LinkedIn account, which I would recommend all of you get, not expensive at all, then you don't have to worry about that. But LinkedIn's a great way to find out about somebody. And going back to your point, Doris, about having too many people within your LinkedIn, if there's somebody within your Rolodex that I was, and it happened to be a person, that was at a company that I was interviewing at, I can try to ask you to make a connection so that I can maybe get more information. Understand the company that you're going to be interviewing with, know about them, understand, what products and services they offer, how large they are, how successful they've been, what issues they may have come across. Prepare your elevator pitch. This is the most important thing, guys. I can't tell you, how important this is. I put a little elevator pitch together for myself, but this is something that, you're going to be asked. So, Doris, tell me, a little bit about yourself. Tell me about yourself, right? How would you answer that? And what I found is that when people are asked that, they ramble, and they sometimes, I've been in interviews where I've asked somebody that, and I'm looking at my watch, and it's like 15 minutes since I've asked the question, and they're still talking. They haven't stopped yet. And they're on job number 2, and we've got 5 more to go. So I've got to interrupt them and say, hey, candidate, we need to pick things up a little bit. And then they'll say, oh, okay. But immediately, that person really wasn't prepared, isn't self-aware, didn't really come to the meeting ready to, with their game face on. So I'll tell you what an elevator pitch sounds like. Really short. Imagine 90 seconds. You're going from floor 1 to floor 10. And I'm gonna, and somebody asked me, hey, so tell me a little bit about yourself. So my elevator pitch is this. I'm Ravi Advani, and I'm an IT executive with 25 years of experience. And I've had a lot of success helping companies deliver game-changing IT services by significantly improving IT operations, lowering their operating costs, improving staff retention, ultimately resulting in various competitive advantages. I would love to learn about how my skills and experience could potentially help your organization. Short, sweet, to the point, and you can tailor it for whatever interview you might be going in. But you want to be prepared with a really powerful, intriguing elevator pitch, something that's somebody in, to say, hey, so how did you do that? So what do you mean you saved companies millions of dollars? How did you go about doing that? What are the things that you looked at? So you want to start to raise some of that curiosity. And that's what the whole elevator pitch is about. So it's going in, being prepared with that. The other thing is you want to practice interviewing. Have somebody ask you questions. There's tons of questions out on the web on any industry, interview. You can go out there and look, and, there's 5, 10, 15 different questions that you can run through. Be succinct with your responses, practice them, so that when you come back with your response, they're powerful. They're not rambling, they're to the point. And then when you're done answering the question, you ask the interviewer, did my response satisfy your question? Is there more detail that you'd like? Because I'm happy to dive into any area, and start to command the conversation. Because remember, an interview is not them interviewing you. You're also interviewing the company. Remember that it's a two-way street. It's not just you, being interviewed and kind of sitting on the hot seat with a light on your head, right? This is not an interrogation. Also, because we're in this virtual world, be prepared with some samples of work that you might have done, projects or email communications that you might have sent and so forth, spreadsheets. If you're a finance person, you can dazzle them with, all of your macros and so forth. These are things that you have on the ready to say, hey, let me show you what I just did recently. Boom, bring up the screen share and show it off. Nothing wrong with that. I get really impressed when people come to interviews prepared to show off their work. The other thing I absolutely love when I'm interviewing somebody is preparing good questions. Having really a good set of questions, not the standard stuff like, hey, what's it like to work at your company? What's a day in the life of Ravi Advani? Or well, what would it be like to work here? Really boring stuff. I mean, think about what it is that would really intrigue you about an organization. And I just put up a few things there, asking about culture. Sorry, there was a question. Dima, did you have a question? Okay, I guess not. Okay. So as I was saying, ask about the culture. Ask about how the company works in terms of performance management. How do they rate their employees? What is it that I need to do to fund a project that I wanted to move forward? And really learn about the inner workings of the organization. What is the leadership support like? How long is the CEO and the leadership team been in place? Are they brand new, or have they been there for 400 years? Because that'll give you a sense of what you're going to be up against if they've been there for 400 years. And I mention here that you should be also interviewing the company. At the end of the interview, you always want to ask this question, because you don't want to walk away after you're done saying, hey, thank you for your time, great, and that's it, and then you don't know how things went. You want to ask the interviewer, did my skills, my qualifications, did my answers meet your requirements for this position? Do you think I have what it takes to work at company X? And wait for the response and look at the body language and see what the person says, because two things can happen. Okay, one is the interviewer can say, you know what, you are perfect for this position. I am hiring you on the spot. You have every qualification. You are wonderful, right? They may not hire you on the spot, Doris, but they may say that you're extremely qualified, and we will be in touch. Or they can say, well, you know what, we're still looking at other candidates, and we'll get back to you and so forth. And you can kind of gauge, from their body language as to whether or not, they interest you. And if you don't feel that you're getting a positive response, you can ask, so what was it, about, my skills or my responses that really, didn't sit well with you? Because what you want is feedback from the interviewer that you could potentially use and learn, so that the next time, in your next interview, you can put that into practice, learn from that, and be even stronger. Okay, so you want to use each of these interviews as an opportunity to get better. Okay, nobody graduates college with an expert in interviewing skills. You know, so it's practice. It's all about practice. The more you practice, the better you get. It's great. You know, you've got a nice peer group here. You guys should be practicing with each other, asking questions of each other, and really drilling each other, because the more you do it, the better you're going to get. And then follow up with a thank you email. And, you know, this is something that people don't do anymore. It's just sort of this forgotten art, and it's really appreciated. I can tell you that, by the interviewers, that you took the time to write them an email to thank them for their time, to showcase your skills, to also indicate what it is that you heard during the interview that you liked, about the company, the position. And interviewers really appreciate that, and it goes a long way. So that's preparing for the interview. The other thing you want to do is ask about the dress code. I didn't mention that here, but a lot of companies are dressed down. My company is very business casual, and we get a lot of people that come in with suits and ties, and that's okay. But you want to ask about the dress code, and you want to ask the HR person, you know, is it okay if I either dress down or dress business casual, or, you know, what's acceptable? Now, you will never go wrong with a suit and tie, or, you know, being formal business. You'll never go wrong. But you always want to find out, you know, what it is that the company does. Again, it might not fit with your culture. You might be totally casual person, and they may say, hey, at this firm, we only wear suits every single day. Even when you're virtual, we wear suits. We expect to see a tie on you. That job's not for me, sorry. Any questions, guys? Okay. I realize I've taken a lot of time up front. We've got about 20 minutes. So I'm going to fly through the next few slides. And Doris, you can be my timekeeper. If you think that we're dragging on one slide too long, give me the signal, and I'll move it forward. Okay, so you're now hired. You got the job, and now it's really time to have the rubber hit the road at this point. So what you want to do when in any situation, in any sort of organization, and you want to do this prior, obviously, is identify yourself, or how is it that you want to be identified? Are you a problem solver? You know, what brand do you stand for? You know, you've got to think of yourself as sort of a brand, and think of yourself as a company. You know, it's Doris Incorporated. And when I think of Doris, it's just do it. Because when Doris comes into work, she's all about getting it done and making sure that she hits her timelines and so forth. So you want to create sort of an identity for yourself. And it really helps define who it is that you are. And you bring that aura, when you walk into the organization. So think about that, before you sort of go into a company, or even before you even interview. What are the things and traits that people told you were good at while you were going through school? They may have said, May, you're an amazing mathematician. You are just, flawless with numbers. When I do my taxes, I'm going to May. That's it. May's a numbers person, and she ends up finding all the issues, in my work. And maybe that's how you want to, identify yourself as, I'm the numbers queen, or I'm the statistics queen. I can help decipher anything, bring anything to me, and I'll be able to deal with it. So what is that brand that you stand for? And what is that tagline that you want to add to your branding? Again, this talks about sort of your brand, your vision, your mission, what does all that mean? And you kind of roll that into your brand. So think about all of those things, what they mean to you, and what it is that you want to bring to the workplace. In terms of work, when you're on the job and you're working, you always want to stay hungry for success. Be creative in terms of learning. Always be curious. Seek out, like I said, the why. Why is it that we're doing this? Why does the company, why does the company operate the way it does? Always challenge the status quo. And you guys will, when you go into organizations, you'll be surprised how much inefficiencies there are within companies. It's unbelievable. You'll sit there and go, oh my God, if they did this differently and that differently and that differently, this would be an entirely different company. And those of you that are working, you can see it. You can see the nonsense that goes on. Challenge the status quo. Start pushing for solutions. Start making those recommendations to your bosses or anyone that'll listen. And the other thing is ask dumb questions. You know, you just got hired. You're still in that sort of that honeymoon phase, right? You can ask all the questions you want, and you know you'll be excused for it. So ask as many questions as you want, so that you fully understand why it is that you're engaging in a particular project. You know, why are we doing this? What is the return? What's the benefit? What are the customers going to get out of it? What am I going to get out of it? Well, you know, why are we doing all this? You know, you have to always sort of be doing that. Don't just accept something when somebody hands you something. Question it. So that's my stay hungry and feast on success slide. Going back to thinking about your company and you as your own organization, you as your company, when you walk out the door of the company that you're working at, it doesn't mean that you stop working, right? Or you stop thinking about your career. Your company is open 24/7, and you should always be advancing your career. So, you know, at nights or on weekends, carve out some time, not all the time. Obviously, you've got to have fun with your friends and, you know, do fun things and so forth, but carve out some time, learn some new skills, identify the things that you're weak in, focus on those areas. You know, there might be projects at work. Maybe you spend 30 minutes on a Saturday or a Sunday getting ahead on that, so that you can come in early and deliver that project 2, 3, 4 weeks ahead of time, you know. And the other thing is also join groups that have similar interests to you, you know, like the one that we have here. It's great where you can share common interests, common goals, and it's a great way, again, to going back to networking. Great way to network and share, you know, industry trends and so forth. So Me Incorporated, Doris Incorporated is open 24/7. Call her anytime and she'll pick up your call. Call her at 2 a.m. Call her at 4. No, well, don't do that. Don't call her at 2 a.m. or she needs to sleep. Okay, going back to the network, I think I beat this thing to death, but this is a little bit different. This is not about networking where we were working on getting a job and trying to understand industries and so forth. This is networking where you are now in an organization. You're inside the company. But guess what? In order to get anything done, you've got to open up a ticket. You've got to wait for somebody to address that ticket. Then it's got to go to this person and that person and that person. Before you know it, 3 weeks have gone by and you've got nothing done because you're waiting on other people to get things done. And it's extremely frustrating. And I'll tell you, I've been in very large companies. The larger the company, the more the bureaucracy, the harder it is to get anything done. It is unbelievable. So the advice that I'm giving all of you is to build a shadow network within the organization. Get to know the people that you are dependent on. Do things for them. They'll do things for you. You know, start to get friendly with them. You know, I'm not saying manipulate people and create fake friendships. That's not what, you know, I'm saying. I'm saying build real networking relationships. You know, share in some of your frustrations and start to build out that internal network. And guess what? When you need something, you can go to that person. And that person will get it done for you immediately. Why? Because you're going to be able to do something for them. It's all about give and take, right? And that's how this network works. So you build that network out, and guess what? When Doris needs something done, she gets it done in 5 minutes. But when other people, you know, need the same thing done, it takes them 2 and 3 weeks. Why? Doris has built out an entire network that she can rely on. And guess what? Those people within that network can rely on her too when they need something that involves her skill set and her area of expertise. And these are sort of shadow networks. And this is stuff that I've learned going through corporate America. And I'll tell you, I talk about this any opportunity I get. It's extremely, extremely helpful. And you guys should think about that when you walk into an organization, really, because this is when you advance, Doris, you said, let's talk about promotions, right? How people get promoted. This is one of the ways to get promoted because you're the person that can get things done faster than anybody else. Why? Because you've taken the time to build out that entire ecosystem, and it's the shadow network that's going to support you. Spend a little bit more time on that than I wanted to, but I thought it was important. Okay, the other thing that's going to be very important, guys, is the art of difficult conversations. Okay, we as human beings have a flight and fight response, and we're mostly flying than fighting, right? We hate confrontation. We run away from confrontation. But guess what? You guys have to get really good at having good, difficult conversations. And again, this is something that takes practice. Just like interviewing, they don't teach you this in college. They don't teach you how to have difficult conversations and come out on the other end of it with what it is that you intended to do. So this takes practice, and there are techniques for how to have these conversations. And if, again, going back to your point, Doris, about promotions, in order for you to be somebody that's promotable, you have to be somebody that's willing to stick your neck out and willing to have these difficult conversations with people. It could be with a vendor that wasn't following what they needed to do within a contract, right? They failed, and now you need to go back to them and tell them they failed, and have them credit you for the money that you spent on something that they didn't deliver. Difficult conversation. You need to talk to an employee about a performance issue that they're having where they don't agree with you. Difficult conversation. You need to have a conversation with your son or daughter about something that you found out about, that they've been doing at school that they haven't been sharing with you. Difficult conversation. How do you navigate those conversations so that you can get your point across? You remain cool, right? You remain cool, and you get the other person to understand what it is that they need to do differently in order to get to that desired end result. And that's what this is about. And I'll tell you this, mastering this, and I say this, mastering this early in your career will accelerate your career, because the people that know how to do this early will move to the top very quickly. Just like the people that build the shadow networks, the people that understand how organizations work and how to navigate around bureaucracy. Having these tough conversations is going to be really important. You're asking your boss for a raise, and your boss is saying, no, you don't deserve one. Difficult conversation. How do you navigate around that? So there are techniques to do this. Now, there's a book that started me on this called Crucial Conversations. And Doris, I will share this along with the templates that you can share with everybody. It's called Crucial Conversations. Great book on how to engage in these types of conversations, how to keep your cool when emotions run high and stakes are high. So again, something that's really important for you guys. Okay, again, going back to this whole point about crucial conversations and so forth, you're going to have many battles as you're going through early on in your career. If you're a coder and you're working with a team of developers, right? Everyone's got their own ideas about how, a particular module needs to be coded and so forth. And you've got to pick and choose, your battles. What is it that, what's worth fighting for, and what isn't? And you'll know that. And you've got to always think about the big picture. Always think about the long game. Do you want to be right, or do you want to win? Right? Do you want to be right this second, or do you want to win? And really, what that means is, I'll give you an example. If you're having a disagreement with your colleague, and you go back and forth, and you guys are having a heated argument, and at the end of the argument, you won the argument, because that person had nothing else to say. You won the argument, but that person really feels bad, after all that. So you ruined a relationship, potentially good relationship, because of something that came up at work. So yes, you were right, but you know, in terms of the long game or the long ball, you kind of lost that person because they have this different perspective of you now. And you may have said things during that argument that you really didn't mean and so forth. So you have to be very careful in the workplace. Always think long. Always work towards salvaging, a relationship, because you never know when these people are going to be working with you, or whether or not that particular individual is going to be in another company that you might be trying to get a job at. And they might say, I remember Doris, we had that argument and it was really mean to me, and I will always remember that. Or I had that argument with Doris, but you know what? Throughout that whole thing, she really made me feel like a valued individual. She's somebody I think that would be great in our organization. That's the difference here. That's the difference that this can make. So think about that, because passions can run high at work. You get really into things, but you always got to kind of remove yourself and think the long game. Unlike our president, who doesn't think the long game, but I'll reserve my opinions. Become the best presenter you can be. Again, Doris, going back to your point about promotable, and being that person to be recognized. You want to be able to be a good presenter. Okay, you want to be comfortable getting up in front of people, articulating your ideas in a very persuasive and confident manner, getting people to understand what it is that you're trying to say, taking them through it, articulating challenges and the next steps and so forth. Again, this all comes with practice. This doesn't come natural. Babies aren't born. Well, some of them are born natural actors and so forth, right? We've got a few of those cases. But for the majority of us, we're not gifted like that. So we really have to work at it. So being the best presenter you can be, and there's so many YouTube videos out there that talk about presentation skills and being able to do it in a confident manner. And I'll tell you, I think, and you guys may know this, they asked the question, if you had to choose between talking to standing in front of a room of people, or like, jumping out of a building, what's the most scariest thing for you? And then most people chose standing in front of a room talking to, people. That was the most scariest thing. They weren't concerned about jumping off a building, which is really crazy to me. But the point I'm trying to make here is that not many people are good at this, and you can get ahead. And the way you do it, again, is practice, 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 and you'll get very good at this. And when you're in an organization, look for opportunities to present to people, get in front of people. Total ownership. This is something that you're going to see in organizations as non-existent. You ever walk into a Home Depot and you're looking for something, you go down an aisle, and you see you see an associate there, and you say, hey, associate, can you help me find this thing? And guess what the response is? This is not my aisle. Let me call the person that works here. And the person's standing right there. And that really, really pisses me off when I hear that. You want to be the person that can help everyone. You want to practice total ownership, so that when somebody comes to you with a problem, guess what? You own it until it's complete, whether it belongs to you or not. You want to be able to see things all the way through. And that starts to create buzz within an organization. And what that means is that people will start to market you within an organization, and they'll say, hey, Doris, or Dima, or Ozma, I can give anything to these guys and they'll get it done. And in this one particular case, it didn't even belong to them and they got it done. I don't know how they do it, but so these are some things that you can start to incorporate into how you work. Negotiation. Everything is a negotiation. Just remember that. I know we're running short on time. We've got about how am I doing on time, Doris? Should I be speeding up?
Yeah, can you wrap up in 5 minutes?
Yeah, I can wrap up in 3 minutes if you want.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, let's do it. So Guys, everything is a negotiation. Negotiate everything. If you haven't practiced negotiating, you should definitely do it. You know, I am of Indian descent, and you know, being Indian, I was born a negotiator. Everybody in my family negotiates. My kids negotiate with me every day for their iPhone. So everything is a negotiation. Just remember that. Nothing, when somebody gives you something, there's always a different place that you can get to. So don't take things at face value. Another thing about corporate America, meetings are the biggest waste of time, guys. If people invite you to a meeting, make sure that you have something that you can contribute. If you don't have anything that you can contribute, do not attend that meeting, cancel out of it. They're a big waste of time. Corporate America, plenty of opportunity for somebody new in an organization. If you look around, there's problems everywhere for you to solve, everywhere. They have old IT systems. They have old processes. They have people that are just focused on keeping the lights on, right? And they don't have enough people innovating and making the organization more efficient. So guess what? You could start focusing in other places. Employees are never satisfied with experiences that they have. Customers aren't satisfied. You just start asking why is this happening? And you'll start to get answers. Nobody manages the vendors. Corporations pay thousands of dollars more than they need to get things done. Thousands, because nobody's managing them. And they get away with murder. No accountability. We don't hold the employees accountable, the vendors accountable. We don't hold our management accountable. Nobody's held accountable. And a lot of complacency. People that have been there for a long time, they kind of sit there. They make a career out of sending one email a day. Really? There's a lot of wastage. Compliance. They think they're compliant, but they're not really compliant. So again, lot of opportunity. And the last one is toxicity. There's a lot of bad stuff going on in organizations, and you'll see that. And it's your job to start to question that. And if it's too overwhelming, that's a sign for you to get out of that organization, because you're not going to be successful. And Doris, how'd I do? 3 minutes.
Very well. Yeah.
So just to wrap up, I hope some of those points, were helpful for you. I hope some of them resonated. If you need me to deep dive into any one of them, I'm happy to do so. Like I said earlier, I'll be sharing some templates with Doris. It was great talking to all of you, and I'm, ready for questions if you guys have any questions.
I have one comment, Ravi. Yeah, I think the workshop is really good, and every time I had a question, you already were talking about to my question, so I don't have any questions.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, if you think of any, may anything come to mind, certainly, reach out. This is an important topic, and I feel like colleges do a disservice, without these types of organizations, without, people like you, Doris, and you, David, putting these things together. This type of information doesn't get out to the students, and they unfortunately end up finding these things out when it's very late in their career. I wish somebody had given me some of these pointers, when I first got into the workforce, and I had some of these ideas. It would have really helped me understand why, people act a certain way, or, why things happen, or how I need to equip myself when I go into a particular discussion. I never had any of that. And it was all sort of, I'd go home feeling really, just really frustrated with myself that I didn't perform within in a certain conversation, or I didn't say the right things, or I didn't do this, and constantly beating myself up and not really understanding, why. And I wish colleges had a course on success in the workplace. It's really a semester course on on how to do this.
Right. How
And that
about
would
let me
really
stop
prep
you
the
there and
speaker.
ask another round for questions. We aim to close in 2 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll shut up.
Yeah, anyone please, questions? We will publish a recording later and we will share the link. So someone asked if we have the recording. Yeah. Any other questions? So Ethan asked, what if the higher up is unhappy with status quo challenge and threatens to fire us? How should we navigate with this situation wisely? So it's more like a difficult conversation.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
this
no,
question
that's
is to your point about challenging the status quo.
yeah. So there are ways to challenge the status quo. There are ways to approach it. Sometimes people come across as very abrasive, where if you challenge something in a way that you're sort of derogatory about the particular situation that you're dealing with, then people view it as, who is this person telling me how to do my job or how to run my company? I've been here for 400 years. I'm extremely wealthy. I have millions of dollars. Who are you trying to do this? So you have to think about how you approach the situation and know your audience, and how to go about talking about it. There's ways to be tactful about doing it, and ways to approach it. So you can start off by saying, what, I really love working at company X, and I really love what you've done some amazing things here, and I'm enjoying myself a lot. But you know what? There's this one thing, that I wanted to bring to your attention, and just get your thoughts on it. You don't even have to offer up your opinion. What do you think of this situation, that's occurring here, and get the upper management's thoughts. Maybe they agree with you. Maybe they'll come and say, you know what, David, this is, I can't believe you're asking me this because I hated the way we do this thing. And I wish we can change it. Easier conversation. The person comes across and says, you know what, I built that process, and I think it's great, and there's nothing wrong with it. Well, it's going to be a challenge, and maybe not the right person you want to talk to about that. So then you go to somebody else that may have a dependency on that process and talk to that person. So you have to kind of understand your audience and who you're dealing with, and then be able to approach it that way. So a little bit of strategy, being a little tactful, in how you do that, and not just sort of coming out and saying, what the hell are you guys doing? This is ridiculous. When I was at company Y, we did it this way and it worked so well. You guys don't know what the heck you're doing. So you just have to, kind of understand how to temper some of that enthusiasm, and watch who you're dealing with.
Yeah, Ravi, thank you so much for the workshop. And we really wish we could hear more from you, maybe sometime later. And
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I think today's closing. And so thank you so much.
Excellent, guys. Thank you all. It was great talking to you. An honor to be here. Thanks again for inviting me, David and Doris. And I wish
Yeah,
you
we're really grateful for the insights that you shared. Thank you so much, Ravi.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Take care. Happy Friday. Enjoy the weekend.
You
You
too.
the same.
Thank you.